Thank you very much. So my only disclosures are really sort of my background. I should disclose that I'm an Android person, not an iPhone person. I have been a clerkship director. I am currently the General Surgery Program Director. I've been the chair of the ASE Education Technology Committee, and so questions like, should we make an app, and things like that have come up several times, and that's kind of the perspective I'm going to share with you. So I think when you look at adopting really any technology, but especially apps, which are currently, I think, very tempting, I like Clay Christensen's idea of jobs to be done. So you want to have an app because you have a job that needs to get done. The job that you need to get done in the big picture is to train a resident, have everything that they need. But there's no app that will succeed at that, right? So there's no individual physician that will succeed at that, much less an app. So you need to nail down exactly what is it that we need the app to do, what job do we want the app to do, and then choose one of your learners to help you figure out which one it is, make sure it's going to work and going to work in their actual environment. In current times, you would want a multi-platform app that was available, obviously, on Android and iOS, and ideally other devices. I always try to figure out the profit model because I think if the sooner you figure out what their profit model is, the sooner you're going to figure out how much it's going to cost you in the long term. So when you look at the app versus the rest of the internet, this is where I think a lot of people get a little bit excited about apps a little bit prematurely. It costs $10,000 and up. This is an estimate I punched into the computer a couple years ago for a very simple database-style app. To use other people's apps is anywhere from free to 99 cents. If you want to download the Zollinger Atlas of Surgery app, it costs just as much as the hard copy textbook does. So they're really quite a range, and a lot of them are also a subscription service. The advantage of apps is they will work without an internet connection, many of them, and they will interact well with other phone features. So if you need GPS in your app for whatever reason, if you need to use the camera, other things that amazing things that your phone can do, an app is probably the way to go because it integrates much more tightly with the rest of the device. If you have reminders that require immediate attention, then an app may be a good idea. If it's a reminder like, this year you need to recertify in surgery, that's not going to be helpful for an app because you can't act on that while you've got your phone in your pocket. The internet is in some ways the opposite of that, obviously requires an internet connection, and you can develop a website for relatively cheap, as much as free, with a WordPress type site, which I'll show you in a second. At this point, you would want to use what we call a responsive site. So if you go to the SAGES site, and you look at the Video Atlas of Endoscopy, on the left is a screenshot of my laptop, on the right is a screenshot from my phone. So it's the same information, a quote-unquote responsive website will reformat it. Essentially on your phone it looks like an app. It works mostly like an app. And so I think if what you have is information that you want to share with other people, even if it's a restricted group of people, if you have information you want to share and that's what you want to do, probably a World Wide Web type interaction is what you need, and you probably don't need an app, which is in some ways good for you because you can save yourself a lot of money. So let's talk about different reasons you might use an app. This is how I think about our education program at Ohio State now. There's getting people to want to be surgeons, there's teaching people, there's assessing people. There's obviously all kinds of other things that we do, but these are kind of the big ones. So when you think about surgery career, this is a slide I use for our first-year medical students. I get 30 minutes in the first year of medical school to convince them that they might want to do surgery, and then I get another 4 hours in the second year, and then they start with us as a third year. So we don't get a lot of time spent, but I think there are some other things you can steer them to that will help you. GibLib was actually here as a vendor. Probably some of you saw them. They are doing a wide variety of video recordings, and some of it's outside the scope of this, but they have an app. They have in their app a 3D view, so you can drop it into a $4 set of Google Cardboard style goggles, or this type of $20 goggle, which was everywhere at Christmas time, sitting next to the cash registers at Best Buy. But you can drop your phone in there, put that on, and they have recorded several operations in 360-degree view. So it's like you're sitting on the ceiling looking down at the operating room. It's really cool. I think it's something you could expose your medical students to and really get them an idea of what it's like to be in the operating room. So when you think about teaching surgery, it sort of breaks down into large groups and personal study time. For large groups, obviously at this meeting we use an app. You can use Guidebook, which is the app that we've used for the ASE and the APDS for several years. They have a free version that you can put stuff into. So if you're having a CME event or something you want to organize, you want to distribute information, distribute schedules, and stop paying for color copies, that might be a good choice for you. Obviously, there's a lot of audience response systems. Some of you have used Poll Everywhere here. Turning Point was the one that required actual little devices. Most people are getting away from that. MClicker is sort of like Poll Everywhere. It's just a slightly different adaptation. And Top Hat is one that Ohio State just purchased, where what we project on the screen, you can see on your phone. I can draw little circles around it. I can insert a poll. I can download the results of that and use that as your quiz score. All of that built into one app. It's more of a site license profit model. Obviously, for personal study, there's a lot of different things. Your phone is great for flashcards. We purchased TrueLearn for our residents, which is essentially a quiz flashcard app. Zollinger is adding videos. YouTube is great. I've used YouTube playlists for our residents and medical students. One thing I discovered, though, is that once they're on my YouTube account looking at the playlist for interest in surgery, my personal playlists about my hobbies are also there. And so I actually got very interesting discussion the one time it happened. Anyway, he knew the people that I'd been watching on YouTube. So that was okay, but I went back and made them all private. So I would encourage you, if you're going to use your own account, make everything private. Brainpad is something I want to tell you about a little bit. It's an app being developed by Maristela Evangelista, one of our plastic surgeons, to help teach pre-op planning. So she nails it down through this app to what operation she does, what operation you're planning for, and then the resident can go in and say, well, this is how I'm going to mark the patient. This is what we want for the setup. This is how we're going to proceed with the dissection. These are my post-op plan. This is how we're going to code, and these are the things we're going to need. She can go in asynchronously, fix it up, make comments, nail it down, and then on the right is a PDF export of that plan, which she can email to the nursing staff and say, here's what we're going to do. And they love it. They love to know what's going to go on. They love to know what equipment they need, especially for some of these longer, reconstructive type operations. And that's her dream for that. In assessment terms, there's several things. ExamSoft was developed originally at Ohio State. It is a full-on exam. You can take a 100 question multiple choice test. It will randomize the questions. It'll randomize the responses, just like USMLE and the board surgery, ABSITE, that kind of stuff. And it will generate item analysis for the items. We use it all the time. My Progress is a checklist development type app. So we use that for our medical students. We tell them, you need to do it. Somebody has to watch you do a history, and here's the items that you're going to get evaluated on. They load it up on their iPad. They give it to the faculty. The faculty checks it off for them. And that meets a lot of those LCME requirements. On the top right, there are several simulators now that basically you lay your phone or your iPad up onto the simulator and use it as the expensive or video part of the device. Simple is the only app I'll tell you about today that actually has any research behind it that I'm aware of. So this has been developed by several surgery programs across the United States. We're not a participant yet, and has been presented at the last couple APDS and ASE meetings. The idea is that the faculty or the resident both have the app on their device. Either of them starts this process. They say, I had this much autonomy in this operation. The faculty says, you had this much autonomy, and so you can get a correlation in the Zwisch scale of autonomy. The faculty can actually dictate little comments in about, you did good at this, these things you need to work on, and the resident can pull that down and listen to it any time. So I think that's actually a really high quality, you look at evidence based on how we're going to do things. It's an excellent app, and they have a beta version online you can download, and they're looking for partners to sign up and help them further their development. So my advice would be to pick something off this list. If you're interested in apps, just pick something and give it a try. And that's really the take home is that they all have their issues. Everything has its issues. You just got to give it a go. Thank you very much.